Atlanta is on the world stage because 1 week from today, FIFA World Cup is here. And if you're going to any of the games or the matches, now's the time to start thinking about how you are going to be navigating downtown. Even if you're not attending the matches, maybe you have to go to work or you forget what's going on in your own backyard. It's going to be a quick reminder that the World Cup is here and the world is here. Doug Turnbull following all things transportation for us when it relates to this big tournament.
Trying to, anyway. And there's so many different spokes about this. This weekend, in fact, before I got to get into that, I was just going through, like, we hung out with several different, neighbors, groups of people, family members this weekend, and everybody's wanted to talk to me about MARTA. Everybody's wanted to talk, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, thank goodness. First off, we got two people doing traffic, all right, because it would be hard for me to do Rachel's job that she's amazing at and then go and try to chase even the few stories I chase. And then we also have a great news team. Grace, as you know, is like the bulldog on this MARTA stuff, right? So it's a lot to handle. And then here we go. It's a lot to handle without the World Cup. And one thing, and I know we've spoken about it before, is Atlanta, for all the stuff that we do wrong, or all the stuff that's difficult, I should say, about traffic, Atlanta's really good at collaborating. And so I spoke to a Georgia Tech professor recently. We spoke about it in here a couple weeks ago, who basically lauded Atlanta for syncing up its traffic signals. And so we're good at that, and we've hosted many big events. Now we've got 8 World Cup matches coming up. That's basically like 8 Beyonce concerts at Mercedes-Benz Stadium or 8 Taylor Swift concerts. But then we have 18 days of thousands of people going to watch parties all over the metro, especially at the FIFA Fan Fest in Centennial Park. So Atlanta DOT has a brand new traffic management center that I'm one of these days going to get to go look at, a brand new traffic management center. And then GDOT's had theirs since the Olympics, basically, in Southeast Atlanta. And I got to have an awesome, nerdy, and I mean I'm the nerd too, conversation with GDOT transportation engineers. And I only took this one clip out. I wish I could just play it in full because I was all about it. But they talk about this super cutting edge technology that's not just scanning how fast cars go.
Huh.
LiDAR is a type of detection that is collecting thousands of data points in an environment. It's detecting cyclists, pedestrians, vehicles, and that data is coming back to us, and we're able to make decisions in real time based on what's going on.
Okay, so number one, I have that same traffic light at home. Number two, the guy that was talking is named Sam Harris, and they've got a Sam's Crossing street sign behind him there. Okay, so like game on. All right, I told him at the conversation, I want a Douglas County sign. Could y'all please send that to me?
Man, I thought you loved traffic. We met your match.
Yeah, these guys get paid more to do more. Okay, so no, I'm just playing. So look, but both Sam Harris and Justin Hatch there at GDOT were very gracious with their time and explained this light detection and radar doesn't just say, hey, this car is moving 12 miles an hour. It measures if it's a person, if it's a bike, and they use what's called rich data, all right? Now, okay, great. So they're measuring all this stuff. What do they do with it? Well, they sync up traffic lights. So, hey, we've got a huge swell of people that are just getting out of this particular Spain game. Spain's the one we're all talking about, right? We've got bicyclists. We've got people coming out of Centennial Park after the Germany watch party I'm going to next Sunday because my wife is German, okay, whatever. But they also can, if, say, Centennial Olympic Park Drive is backing up, they could send people over to Northside Drive by making the traffic signals move differently. So GDOT does things from a 30,000-foot view, whereas APD, using the ATL DOT Traffic Management Center, also APD has officers in GDOT's Traffic Management Center and in the Georgia World Congress Center. APD can be in these traffic centers that communicate to their officers on the ground how to direct that traffic as well. So it's really interesting. It's all collaboration. So they've also, as we've talked about, Centennial Olympic Park Drive, I mentioned last half hour, has moved into a one-way direction. They've taken out some lanes to make it for pedestrians, putting 15,000 people on the same sidewalk. Not the best plan, right? Everybody could agree on that. And lastly, then there's MARTA, and I know we're gonna hear more about MARTA in a second. For all the warts, and we will get into those in a minute, MARTA is having trains every 5 minutes during the 18-day World Cup at the busiest times, and the entrances to the 5 Point Station, as we previously reported, are all supposed to be open. For those that have been to 5 Points, which is the central terminus, for those who don't know, in the MARTA system, 5 Points has had almost every entrance boarded up. I had to walk like 10 or 15 minutes all the way around the station to even get inside the 5 Point Station when I did my story on it. So all of that's supposed to be. And then lastly, 285 was closed this weekend. We've said it numerous times. It will not be fully shut down during the World Cup. I have not heard back from GDOT about other lane closures, but I would think those would be limited.
I was on 285. I'm gonna relate all this back to traffic. I promise. I was on 285 this weekend on the way to the Braves
You're already
game.
related to traffic. You're good.
and the couple we were traveling with, they wanted to talk about MARTA. They were curious to know what we were hearing, and they're lifelong Atlantans, and they're just curious to know where it goes from here. You mentioned all the warts, Reams. We just heard from Governor Brian Kemp, kind of touching on this very issue and some of the bad PR, to put it mildly, that MARTA's had in the last week.
Yeah, Governor Kemp was at a event with Derek Dooley. They're holding multiple events throughout the day, as near the election, and the discussion of MARTA was brought up. Our cameras, I believe, were the only cameras there to capture it. So let's go ahead and listen to that. This is just in.
Is MARTA ready for all the traffic occurrences?
Well, I would just tell you from the whole city perspective, like we are communicating with them daily, have been for almost 2 years now on the security plan. So if anybody needs additional resources, all they got to do is call and ask us. I mean, we've got, also National Guard assets, all our state assets, everything the city's doing. I mean, we'll do anything anybody wants us to do.
Last one for me, Governor.
All right, there you go. Hearing from Governor Kemp. First comments I believe we've heard from him.
Well, and so Kemp, they just signed into law back in May, the ATL, the overall umbrella that MARTA's under, and I just had to look at it to make sure I got the name right, Georgia Transportation Efficiency Authority. All right, so I think there's going to be a little more state involvement in how things go, and of course with the national investigation that got announced from USDOT last week, something's got to change and step up, and I have a feeling we're going to learn more.
All right, Doug, thank you, sir.